Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani. Well, this Friday, my guests are Dr. Jide Johnson of the Nigerian Institute of Journalism, Deputy Provost. Thank you very much, as always, for coming on, Dr. Johnson.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Uncle.
Indeed. And Barrister Fred Nzeako. He's a public affairs analyst and, as is implied by the title I gave him, a legal practitioner as well. Thanks as always, Fred, for coming on.
Thank you, Yori.
So maybe I should just start with you because confusing issues, well, not really confusing, but in a manner of speaking. Talking about the Code of Conduct, Code of Conduct Tribunal,
Yes.
having decided, and I won't bother with the Latin you lawyers use, have decided to suspend indefinitely, adjourn indefinitely. Tell me that Latin thing.
Sign die.
There you go.
Yes.
That's it. That's that. But for us,
Yes.
suspend indefinitely judgment.
That's the English interpretation
Exactly.
of sign die.
Hey, thank you very much.
Yes.
So, to suspend indefinitely judgment on Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki's case.
Yes.
As we all know, and certainly you, it's been a bit convoluted. Initially, the Code of Conduct Tribunal, headed up by two-man panel, headed up by Justice, Mr. Danladi Umar, had discharged and acquitted the Senate President entirely. This was appealed, so it went to the appeal. Appeal adjusted that and asked them to go back. Saraki appealed to the Supreme Court.
Against the appeal.
Against the appeal.
Yes.
The federal government cross-appealed.
Yes.
So the two of them are in the same Supreme Court.
Yes.
Well, now, yesterday was supposed to be the day to listen to, I think you people refer to it as adoption of brief.
Of brief. Final address.
A final address.
Yes.
And that's when the panel chairman now shared with us the fact that, notwithstanding the fact that the defendant in this case had written to the tribunal calling its attention to the appeal and cross-appeal, especially its own appeal,
Yes.
He noted that. But he says the defense proceeded to open their case without referring to this letter. And that was a bit surprising.
There's really nothing much to surprise anybody about it, because once prosecution has concluded its case, the next is for defense to open its defense.
Yeah, but the very defense, the camp of defense,
I
so
know,
to speak.
is the same camp that wrote
Yes.
to the court,
And the same camp that is opening defense.
notifying the court that this matter is in the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Right?
And then proceeds not
So
to mention it again on the floor of the court.
In that case, the court must have taken judicial notice of that fact, that this matter is in the Supreme Court, is at this point at the Supreme Court. And then what it now means is that if the court of first instance, which the Code of Conduct Tribunal, goes ahead to take the closing statement of both defense and prosecution and adopt their written brief and do all those preliminary things, the next thing will be he has to set a date for judgment. And if a matter is in the Supreme Court, and this same Code of Conduct Tribunal had sometime discharged and acquitted the accused, right? The defendant in this case. It's only the federal government that went to appeal. And then appeal court now referred some aspect of that trial back to the tribunal for retrial.
Yes.
The defendant now said, no, you can't retry me again, that amounts to double jeopardy, which in law is not allowed. And then he went to Supreme Court, asking the Supreme Court to quash the decision of the Court of Appeal. Now, federal government...
And stay with the original judgment, which is discharged and acquitted totally.
Totally. Now
the federal government counter-appealed.
Now, the federal government now countered. It is in the process that the Court of First Instance, the Code of Conduct Tribunal, was notified about what is going on at the Supreme Court. It is natural for Code of Conduct Tribunal to hold on. And it's important for Nigerians to know, and your listeners, and watchers to know, that when we say adjourn indefinitely, it does not mean adjourn forever. In the eye of the law, indefinitely means, at least for now, you don't talk about it until certain things, until determination of the matter in the Supreme Court.
Yes.
So the use of that word indefinitely does not mean forever.
So the use of the word indefinitely, however, has its connotations. Dr. Johnson, I know it's not a matter of English. I know. But still, when a court of that authority tells us this matter, I think I'm putting it, away indefinitely.
I think what the court should have done actually is to have the tribunal to have done in the first instance to have waited for the various appeals that has been lodged at the appeal court until they get to the Supreme Court and there's a final judgment on that. The Supreme Court is the last court that anyone can go to. After that, whatever judgment that is passed at that level becomes final, whether you agree with it or not, is to have waited. The CBD should have waited until that time, but it's never too late for you to do that. So what it has done is that, we don't want, because this is a high-profile case. This is a case that has political connotation. This is a case that has a political implication. So it is better for us, for once and for all, to listen to what the Supreme Court wants to say concerning this matter. We said the Senate President appealed to the Supreme Court. The federal government had a cross appeal, and you begin to wonder, Senate, federal government, and you're still talking about the same government. So you see the political dimension and the political connotation to it. So, and then also recall that the chairman of the tribunal was invited by EFCC. All of this. Hey, wait a minute. Let's listen to what the Supreme Court will say concerning this various appeal. And then once they have taken a decision on that matter, then we'll come to the substantive case before us. And then we can pass our judgment concerning that. And there won't be any controversy as to regard whatever judgment that is passed concerning the case before it. I think the word indefinitely requires interpretation as a function of grammar. It's until the determination of the case before the Supreme Court, we cannot do anything on this matter.
Which, well, yes, that's the state of the law, as both you gentlemen have sort of aired. But there will be many critics, perhaps not knowing the law, who would say something like snidely, quite conveniently. About this whole scenario. So it's, but you see, I hope, and let me come back to Fred here, because it's interesting. We can't pre-guess. We can't be thinking what the Supreme Court is going to come up with. But some of the things that Jide said, you probably will agree with. This is a case that many see as having very high stakes, very high personalities, but having political implications as well, and so on and so forth. Now, what do you think, Fred? In cases like this, the Supreme Court, I imagine, is like the ultimate distillation of the law. Final. Yes. You got the ultimate distillation of this is what the law says and all of this. Are political considerations going to figure at all? Can the law be stripped of all political matter and let's deal with the facts of the case? Don't care the personality. What does the law say? And let's deal with that. Because let's remember that what is causing all of this conversation, judicial conversation, is the charge against Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki that false declaration of assets. Really, that's the core of it. So my question, politics is going to be part of the considerations taken at the Supreme Court or not?
The courts are not interested in politics.
Aha.
Simpliciter, the courts are interested in law, and that law is based on facts, evidence, figures that are concrete, that even the blind will see that these facts are concrete. That's what the court is interested in.
So your case should be in safe hands. Once it has got to the Supreme Court, it should be in safe legal hands, right?
Every court, not only Supreme Court, every
but
court.
In particular, the Supreme Court, since you can't argue further.
Is the ultimate.
Yes.
Is the ultimate.
Yes.
Is the last bus stop in litigation and adjudication.
So we're sure that the Supreme Court only and always considers matters of law.
Always considers issues that are lawful, issues that relate to law, not interested in politics, but always interested in stability of the system.
Okay.
You see, Fred
Okay.
has studied.
Very good, very good. I like this.
Very
I like
interested.
This. Of course.
In
As
stability
as
of the
any
system.
institution within the country.
And that is why the courts, especially the Supreme Court, should always be given kudos for saving Nigeria, especially Nigerian democracy.
Okay.
Without the Supreme Court, without the courts, I tell you, we shouldn't be talking about. We wouldn't be talking about. Wouldn't be talking about democracy by now.
Of course.
Because every politician is not only selfish but greedy. I use the words advisedly because every politician would want to win, and that is why some of them don't mind putting in anything to win at all costs.
Okay.
The do-or-die syndrome can only be checkmated by the courts, by the judicial system. Now, the courts are interested in law, in facts, in evidence, and in stability.
In stability. Okay.
You see, the higher you go in the judiciary, the more adept politically you become.
Yes.
Because at the Supreme Court level, it is assumed that you must have seen and have served at various judicial levels before you get to the apex of them. To say the Supreme Court or the judiciary, to divorce them from politics is playing to the gallery, in the sense that you can't become your nomination and recommendation as the Chief Justice of the state, as the
Chief Judge of the state, the Chief Justice of the nation.
Goes through the presidency, goes through the legislature. So there is an interface. There is, for you to get nominated, there are some levels of politics. You must be adept politically. Let me just get that corrected. And he said, he said as a lawyer that for stability, the Supreme Court exists to maintain stability in the system. And there's no way you can divorce politics out of what is going on. In whose interest, if we take this judgment, in whose interest are we serving? The interest of the nation, the interest of a party, the interest of a group, and that informed, and that's why at that level, you require 5 justices to sit, minimum.
Yes.
Five. You know, at lowest level, you have 1. At this CB, you have 2, you have just 2. At the Supreme Court, you must have a minimum of 5 justices sitting. And then each and every one of them will have an interpretation. They will vote on the matter, their opinion on the matter. And in most cases, they don't always agree. It's the simple, if there are 6, if 3 of them should agree on one matter and 2 should disagree, it is the 3. That will be the leading judgment.
But no, what is your experience in your research, and maybe Fred will chip in on this, in the case, for example, this hypothetical case of we're having Supreme Court 3-2, for example, surely it can't be heard that those 2 that disagree is because of political considerations.
You know, it's called legal opinion.
Okay.
The interpretation of the case is their legal opinion. Each will write his own judgment and will back up his opinion
based on the law.
Based on the law and his opinion.
Okay. Well,
his opinion on the matter. He's a lawyer. Let him respond
shouldn't it be isn't it usually the opinion of the justice as to the interpretation of the law, of that particular law that is before them that they are considering?
What informs the decision of a judge?
Because we're looking at this whole matter about political implications and wondering whether it is relevant in a case like this. And I think what you gentlemen are suggesting is that you can't divest it of relevance.
No, not us. Don't say we gentlemen. That's Jide. I am not. That's Jide.
Okay,
I'm not on the same page.
No.
I'm not on the same page with him on that. Because his own understanding of faith is that because the nature of appointment, starting from appointment of the justice of the Supreme Court and even that of Court of Appeal, has to have the input of politicians by way of appointment by the president and confirmation by the Senate, right? That interface with politicians has brought politics into it.
Yes.
But I tell him that is wrong. It doesn't bring politics into it.
Because I feel that even if a judge has been appointed as has to be on the recommendation of the governor, for example, that doesn't mean that if there's a case where he sees that the state is badly in default, that he will not say so.
I agree with you. It is with due respect to the doctrine of separation of powers that has to be done, right? But don't forget that that appointment is done by National Judicial Council, not the president. It's National Judicial Council that takes care of that, forwards the name to Mr. President. Mr. President now forwards the name to the legislature and the Senate precisely, and then for confirmation. The appointment does not start with Mr. President. So in that case, you cannot say politics has come into it. And that is why National Judicial Council, in its wisdom, will appoint justices of the Supreme Court based on experience, capacity, and seniority. Now, if a judge is appointed, what informs a judge's decision is essentially not politics, but law.
Law.
And what is law? Facts, figures, and evidence. That is law.
All of which key into stability of the society.
Of the society. It is that stability of the society that so many people misinterpret as politics. That's not politics.
Let me chip this in.
Sure.
You see, we've said it on this program, okay, you'll recall that. I hope by the next dispensation, we'll be interested in the characters that are nominated into the Supreme Court, because it's a critical and crucial issue in order to develop democracy like United States of America. Like the nomination of a judge into the Supreme Court in the United States is a major issue. To say that the judiciary is divorced of politics, I would disagree with him totally. Because if you look at the appointment, if you look at the trends of judges, even in civilized crime, even when you have a systemic order in doing this thing, judges in United States of America Supreme Court, is either you're a conservative judge or you are a liberal judge.
Yes.
And that opinion, that view, that worldview, every person has a worldview, regardless of the war before you. How would a judge see gay marriage, for instance? Is he legal? Is he illegal? It's a function of his worldview. His worldview will determine the interpretation. Okay, why would 5 justices sit on the matter and 5 of them cannot agree as to what the judgment is?
Since they're all highly trained in the law.
Since they're all looking in the law.
They're all experts in the law.
You can't divorce that, because your worldview will influence your interpretation of the law. And we can't take that out of what is going on here.
Because exactly. Thank you very much for bringing it back home to the case we're discussing.
You recall the confirmation of the appointment of the present Chief Justice of the Federation. You recall. You know, his acting capacity almost expired, and there were hues and cries from all over Nigeria that there is the need to confirm this person. If he was not confirmed, and he was the longest, and it was because he was from the South. And you tell me there's no politics in this matter.
But, and this is, Fred has said that, you know, you're entitled to your opinion, but he's not on that same page with you. Are you therefore saying that, but Fred has not totally dissociated himself from you. He just substituted words. Fred prefers the word stability of society, and necessarily whatever it takes to arrive there within the law. That is probably what, you know, many people are interpreting as politics. Because we have to look at this in the larger war against corruption or fight against corruption. That's how come Senate President Dr. Saraki is, you know, even having to answer charges. He doesn't want to answer them. That's the whole purpose of his going to court, to see a legal way to get such confirmation. But the appeal court said, go and answer 3 of them. I think it was 18, so as against...
15 were knocked off.
15 were knocked off. Now the appeal by the federal says, go and answer 3 of them. So that's where we are now, and we're hearing this whole matter about, look, if I should go up, for example, against some highfalutin legal bigweight somewhere, you mean that if a case there was trouble between us, matter that needed to be sorted out, the mere fact that one is a political heavyweight and one has no weight at all politically, that will affect the outcome of the decision, and that it is as it should be, because these things are sort of embedded. That's the worry. Is it too idealistic to assume that they will concern themselves exclusively with the law? It doesn't matter whose ox is God, they will call it as it is.
If anybody begins to insinuate politics in judicial decisions, the person possibly either has not addressed himself or herself to the facts of the issue.
But you can't fault
I'm coming.
You can't fault Gideon's premise about there are known conservative judges and known liberal judges,
don't
for
forget
example.
that even in America,
Yes.
they have Supreme Court at state level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't forget that.
Yes.
So when you are talking about federal Supreme Court, they are different from the state Supreme Court, right? Nigeria, we don't have true democracy. I mean, true federalism. In fact, we don't have true democracy.
Okay.
I can say that. We don't have true federalism. And because we don't have true federalism, our legal system is not akin to that of American system. Our legal system is even closer to the British system. And our political system is closer to the American system. Sometimes that is the contradictions that we have, that we are practicing parliamentary legal system in a presidential political system.
That brings politics into it.
You understand? Mm-hmm. So that does not mean that politics now becomes overbearing. If you say that the personal idiosyncrasies of a judge may impugn on his decisions, I will not argue that.
Okay.
Why I will not argue
them
that?
idiosyncrasies.
No. Why
you call them worldview.
Why I will not argue that is that the judges themselves are human.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The late Justice of Supreme Court once said that they are super, not because they are humans, but they are humans because they are super. Something to mean that the Supreme Court justices are super, they are referred to as supermen, but they are human beings. And it is that recognition that they are human beings that has made it that only one justice of Supreme Court will not sit on a particular matter, because the law and the system recognizes that beyond that level, your appeal can only lie in heaven.
Yes.
Okay? So in order to make it, to take away every trace
of personal,
political, and unlawful interest or non-legal, I better use the word, non-legal interest, you have a committee, a small committee of justices sitting on a particular case. And so that by the time they discharge their judgment should be sound and unassailable. And that is why their judgment becomes the locus classicus that every court, it becomes the precedent that every court will obey.
Indeed.
Even with that, if there is need, overriding need, over time, for the Supreme Court to adjust their judgment, they sit in a larger panel and do so.
Indeed.
Yes.
Judges, court systems, they're so powerful, and I agree with you, we need them because we live in a civilized society and we must be concerned about the stability of our society. In a sense, that's why all sorts of organizations have their different hierarchies for law. Even in the army, they have the military police, they get up to a certain level and so on and so forth. I'm remembering Egypt. I'm sure you too will remember the part that judges played in the crisis in Egypt when they came out seemingly against the government of the day and seemingly in favor. They actually went on strike, if you remember, and said this is just.
Don't even go
it's
too
messed
far.
up.
Don't even go
it's
too
messed
far,
up.
Yori.
This is messed up, and we can't continue to be pretending.
The Supreme Court in Kenya.
And
all the presidential elections.
Yes.
And then they had to go and rerun the election.
Yes.
So don't even go too far.
Okay.
In Kenya,
exactly.
Yes.
Well, but that is slightly different in the sense that the judges in frustration in the Egyptian example downed tools, almost unheard of. And that is not something that will be taken lightly. But for some reason, you couldn't call it a decision, but they acted, as it were, on behalf of society.
Uncle Yori, coming back to this case, could this case have been resolved politically? You know, this case started on the 21st of October, 2015. I was on this set with Dapo when Saraki appeared before the panel, and that day was meant to be the day that the present Minister of Transportation, that was the elsewhere Director General of Buhari APC presidential campaign, thing was to be screened, and it was postponed. The screening was postponed indefinitely because Saraki was to appear for 3 days. This issue could have been resolved politically at the party level, at the caucus level, and
but
in
an anti-corruption era, how do you resolve weighty charges such as false declaration of assets politically?
2003.
You
established 2003. 2003 election declaration for 2003 election.
That's what they are holding against him.
That's you see. That's why we said it.
And there was a declaration in 2007, 2011, 2015.
You see, and the
so
president,
how come you now found out that the 2003 own was wrongly declared and they started holding him in 2015?
You know,
after his emergence as the Senate President. I agree with you, Jide. I agree with you that that is politics in it. But that politics does not snowball into the judiciary. That's what I want to separate. Yes,
for example,
between executive and legislature, there was a lot of politics.
For example, if the Attorney General of Federation did not appeal, then he has the right to appeal or not to appeal.
Or not to appeal.
If the Attorney General does not appeal, what happens? If the Attorney General files a non-prosequi, what happens?
That ends it.
It brings all this political... And, you know, I said on this set then that the way the presidency is handling this case, we turn the legislation into an opposition party. That it will turn. And last week the president said, oh, we could have achieved more, but we didn't have the cooperation of the legislature. So it's a food for thought for us on how to manage crisis, intra-party crisis, in order for us not to eat politics. You see,
but because of this very point you're making, is this something of an intra-party crisis?
It's an intra-party crisis.
This whole accusation.
This whole accusation
of false declaration of assets.
We have established this, that in 2000, you didn't see anything wrong with it in 2003.
Which
you
probably
didn't see anything, 2007.
Yes.
You didn't see anything wrong with it in 2011. You didn't see anything wrong with it. You now saw something wrong with it in 2015 when he emerged as the Senate President. You didn't see anything wrong
against your wish.
When he was part and parcel of you. When he stepped down as a presidential candidate to go into the Senate. You see, there are...
saying that is the political aspect of this whole thing. Never mind the veracity or otherwise of the original declaration that could conceivably, but I'm not stating...
I have said this on this program. Let everyone, since 1999, let them come out with their declaration they used in 1991. The asset declaration. Everyone that has held public office in this country, let them come out with it. With the asset declaration. With what they own in 1991 and what they are owing in 2018. It's you won't believe it. You will be shocked. We see people going to the House of Rep in our community.
So this is...
that has nothing. But then all of a sudden, you see them having houses left, right, and center.
But this might be referred to as stability. Because we're not at war, the blood is not flowing in the streets.
No, that is not stability.
It's not stability.
That is not stability.
Okay, one second, please. I'm going to let you come back and flesh it out. Mr. George, good morning, and thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Uncle Yori,
good morning,
and your guest.
Good morning.
Uncle Yori, if my memory serves me well, this case was referred to the tribunal by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said 3 of the cases must be retried. And that was why it went back to the CCT. And when it got there, Saraki and both the defense and the prosecution presented their cases, and it was time for the judge to pronounce a judgment. Where is this place of an appeal? Do you appeal against a Supreme Court verdict? Uncle Yori, I heard you say that the appeal court said it wasn't the appeal court. It had left the appeal court to the Supreme Court. It was the Supreme Court that said, go back and retry these three cases. I mean, these three points in the case. So what is the essence of going back to the Supreme Court again? Is that an appeal? Do they appeal when a case comes from the Supreme Court?
Okay.
And what is going on now seems to give credence to what people are saying, that that judge has been compromised. I heard Fred say that the Supreme Court passes judgment based on stability of the system. I didn't quite understand him. In Kenya, just a few months ago, the presidential election was annulled by the Supreme Court of that country. And it did not stop the system from running until the president recontested and then he won again. Why is it difficult for us to allow law to take its course in Nigeria just because a high-profile person is concerned? That's not a defense. If you committed an offense 40 years ago, it doesn't make it a non-offense 50 years after. It still remains an offense as far as the law is concerned. Okay. So this question of saying it's a witch hunt should just be discarded.
All right, then. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. We'll go to a quick break now, but please hold the point. We'll come straight back and continue, and also include your calls. Welcome back. Still got Dr. Jide Johnson, Deputy Provost, Nigerian Institute of Journalism, and Fred Nzeako, lawyer and public affairs analyst, with us. Thank you, gentlemen, again. Now, Mr. George called in and stated some facts, worrying about the accuracy of certain things that have been said on the program. But this whole, especially as it relates to Saraki's reason and how he went to the Supreme Court.
Yes, it's very
What's your recollection?
It's very important that we correct very quickly some of the issues that George mentioned. I think that there's a lot of mix-up in his own account of what happened. When Saraki was taken to court, Saraki first challenged the jurisdiction of the court on two grounds. One, that the Code of Conduct Tribunal was not properly constituted because it was supposed to be a three-man panel and then there was a two-man panel. Two, the second ground was that it was the Office of the Attorney General that should take the matter to CCT, but it was then there was no substantive Attorney General. It was the Solicitor General of the Federation, who is incidentally the Permanent Secretary, that took the matter. So Saraki challenged the jurisdiction of the court based on these two grounds, and the matter went to as high as Supreme Court. In that case, he was saying he had no case to answer because he could not stand before a wrongly constituted tribunal. Okay. So the Supreme Court now sent the whole thing back and said, you have a case to answer, go back and take up your case. On that point, the Code of Conduct Tribunal assumed jurisdiction and continue with the case. Because don't forget that anything that has to touch on jurisdiction must first be settled before the substantive matter is touched. Otherwise, it will be an exercise in futility. So with the Supreme Court arming the Code of Conduct Tribunal with the authority to go ahead with the case, Saraki had no submit to the tribunal. And then the matter started. Until the tribunal now discharged and acquitted him on all grounds. The federal government now, through the Office of the Attorney General, went to Court of Appeal.
Yes.
Court of Appeal now said there are three issues that need to be retried and not be discharged. Yes. Saraki now went to Supreme Court again. So this is the second time the matter is going to Supreme Court. First on jurisdiction, and this matter on issue of the substantive trial.
And that, thank you very much, Fred Nzeako, and that is the way it is actually reported. That's what you can find out online, going by journalistic reports of that particular aspect of it. Did you want to add something? Because I had to respectfully interrupt you when I wanted to go to the break.
The important thing, we are not...
Oh, I beg your pardon, sir. Mr. Olayinka is holding on in Jos. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Yori.
Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Olayinka.
Hello?
Yes, go on, please. Good morning, sir.
Is that Mr. Yori?
We can hear you. Mr. Olayinka, go on, please.
Okay, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Please, we love your good job you are doing that day. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Oh, please, I don't want to correct one impression with one of your guests here. If the case is stated 20 years ago, it didn't mean that government will not pursue it. If your guests remember that they are talking to the whole world, not Nigeria alone. If they are thinking that there are some big man in Nigeria who cannot take court, the other countries are watching us. They do not want to come out to tell us when they're on set. That can be because the case is 20 years back. Government will abandon it. How can we continue like this in this country? It's a shameful thing. I think we have to know what we are going to be doing in this kind of program. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. The much that I could tell me from that is that Mr. Olayinka is not enamored of the status quo.
Our responsibility is to throw critical light onto issues.
Indeed.
And to provide an holistic perspective to the issue of discourse per time, so that people can be informed and adequately educated. And all of us, like they say in our local dialect, cannot sleep and put our head in the same direction.
But as you said, we have to bring out the facts of the case
so
and the traditions surrounding all of this, that we're working with laws.
People can have a deeper understanding of what is going on. If you commit a crime 100 years before now, it does not foreclose the judiciary or the state from prosecuting you once it is discovered that you have. But
and
we are looking at we are looking at a particular case, and we are trying to throw such light on the case to educate people as regards what is going on concerning that issue. And all of us can't share the same view concerning this. Like he established, he said this case was meant to be filed by the Attorney General of the Federation. At this material point in time, the Attorney General of the Federation was not already in office. It was the Solicitor General, who happens to be the Permanent Secretary, a civil servant that filed the case. The basic thing we talk about, even in law, you lose your case right from the way you are gathering your witness. You could lose the case based on technical ground. Now, why are we in a hurry? Could we have not waited until we have a substantive Attorney General of Federation who could have filed a proper case on the matter, and then you prosecute whoever you need to prosecute?
So sometimes the way we go about matters,
that's what we are talking. We are explaining,
compromises the integrity of the very matter. I beg your pardon, I'm going to come to you for sure. Reverend Dominic, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Yori. I can't actually see you. You never have taken my life. Let me contribute my quota here.
Sure.
Can I go?
Please go ahead.
I want to ask Jide a question.
Please go ahead, sir.
I want to ask Jide whether this happened 20, 30 years ago. Was it, is the offensive committed, trying to commit any offense at all in his own judgment? Because he was saying, why do we try him now? That the matter happened in 2002. But the question is a crime. I've said it before and I'll say it again. As long as all of us in Nigeria do not know or understand or agree with ourselves, agree to us that we must fight corruption, we cannot win it. Buhari alone cannot fight corruption. If the life of Jide is defending Saraki because the offense was committed in 2002, and we're trying in 2015 and 16 and 17, and this one we should not try someone who committed offense. This nation and the generation of unborn will hold us responsible because we're not responsible. There's somebody in Crete today, it's 15 years, who just stole granite. There's somebody in Crete today,
Dominic,
15 years, who stole, handset.
But Dominic,
try him and kept him away for years. But the ones who stole billions.
Okay, but Dominic, I hear you, Dominic.
Dominic, what is happening here? Can I hear you?
Yes, Dominic. I wanted to say that Jide was just giving his own opinion and analysis of the matter, but you've said that is, as far as you're concerned, it amounts to a defense of Dr. Saraki.
It's an opinion. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Jide is a very, very opinion person in Nigeria. Jide is a respected journalist. Whatever Jide says, people hold it in high esteem. So Jide is not a person. For him to come to national television while we are dying here of corruption, to make us watch which way a man who committed offense in 2002 because the sitting president, Jide, you press of yourself and myself. We must be careful what to comment here.
All right, Reverend Dominic. Thank you very much for calling in.
Well, let me shock him.
Thank you very much for calling
Let
in.
me shock him for that. We are not fighting corruption in Nigeria. We are doing debt recovery. I've said that over, and there are many programs. I can tell the dates that have appeared that I've spoken on. We are not fighting. What you use institutions to fight corruption. What are the institutions that we have in place to fight corruption? We are not fighting. We are just doing recovery of stolen money. And I start to be challenged by anybody concerning that. That's my view, and I stand by my view. And also, I'm not defending Saraki. We are looking at the case. Why was the case
and
postponed
how the law operates
indefinitely by the
looking
CCB?
at the case and how the law operates.
Exactly. So that's what we are talking about. If you commit a crime and you are caught by the state, you'll be prosecuted. You'll be prosecuted. I knew why people are bitter. Listen, I knew why people are bitter about this case. About this case. So it's because Saraki emerged as a Senate president.
That might be one. But people are also making the other point that, look, it might well be, and I don't have any evidence for that, it might well be that now people are taking the whole anti-corruption thing seriously, which might not have been the case in 2003, is the suggestion, not confirmation, and therefore this time they might have decided that we want to pursue it, whereas before it might have been, it's a small thing. I don't know why this is always happening to you, Fred. When I want to bring you on, then somebody will be waiting.
No problem.
So whatever happens. Good morning, sir. Please go ahead now. Well, I just launched the cube, so, you know.
People should heap their indictment on Code of Conduct Bureau and not on individuals. It is the duty of the Code of Conduct Bureau to rise up and walk. Go through the Code of Conduct of Public Officers documents filed.
Extant laws that establish them.
Passed. Because even civil servants at lower levels, they file Code of Conduct papers.
That's right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right. That's right.
Who scrutinizes those documents? This declaration of assets, who scrutinizes it? If the man that is saddled with the responsibility of such scrutiny either neglects to do his job or compromises on his position,
yes,
whose fault is that?
Well, and if in the fullness of time, this is now, that complacency is now being challenged.
It's now being challenged.
But you know what? Let's air this thing properly.
Nobody is saying, let me understand, let me better get my understanding of what Jide said. Jide is saying that if this document was filed in 2003,
and there was no complaint,
the same organization never found anything wrong with it, then the man now emerged as Senate president against the wishes of the party establishment, and suddenly they went back to begin to dig out his documents. That it is purely political.
Well, that is his
opinion.
That is his opinion.
If anybody begins to quarrel with it, that no, it is not political because it's defending Saraki.
It's political.
Everything around it is political.
Okay, let me take a break with Yakub. Good morning. Thank you for trying to getting back in.
Yeah, thank you very much. Chief Yori, good morning, and then good morning to the two wise men in the studio.
Thank you, sir.
Chief Yori, I think for me, this is my own personal opinion. I think federal government are not due diligent to this very particular case. Why am I saying that? They have not done their own work very well before they took Saraki to court. Now, the case has been adjourned indefinitely. What is going to come out of that case? If you could remember, this very particular case done a lot of damage to this government. Why am I saying that? Because they took the Senate president to the court, or the Senate normally following them to the court, because of this very particular case that federal government is all about to, let me even say about to lose it, because they are not doing their own work very well. Because of this very particular case, so many bills that sent by Mr. President is in the National Assembly are not attended to. So many people that Mr. President would like to work with him, they are in National Assembly, stay there without approval. See, Chief Jolly, for me, our justice system in this country is faulty, totally faulty. Because the reason is this: if you want to take Saraki to court, you notice it's a very high-profile person. You should be able to take your time. In fact, it took you like 1 or 1.5 years gather all your evidences, and then took the very particular person to court, and then you were very assured that he cannot be able to escape the penalty. But now, what is out of it now? They are going to the Supreme Court, come back again, going on. Now, the case has been adjourned indefinitely. Chief Glory, I can tell you,
all right, thank you very much. He didn't let him pronounce judgment.
Exactly.
He was because he was about to tell us. He was about to deliver the judgment. Thank you, production guys up there.
Panel. The chief judge of the viewers panel. Indefinitely. Yaku, your judgment has been postponed indefinitely.
But Fred, you see the point that he is making. You know. Maybe it's just another opinion out there while we're waiting for the almighty opinion from the Supreme Court in the fullness of time. What Jide said earlier, okay, why are we in so much of a hurry? Even in this one, but finally, please.
So many matters are lost on account of the way they are packaged. I earlier told you that the court is looking at facts and evidence. And that is the law. And not on sentiment, emotions, or public opinion. There's no court that will be swayed by public opinion.
But Fred, you really mean all other things being equal?
It is
because
the media.
After all, there are corrupt judges.
It is the media that can sway public opinion and not the court. The court is not swayed by public opinion.
And then in Nigeria, you know.
But the court can consider overriding public interest
for
the stability of the system.
Okay. Hamsat, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Uncle Yuri.
Thank you very much for calling in, sir.
Yeah, I'm calling from Birnin TV. I'm a first-time caller.
Oh, we're delighted to have you, Hamsat. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I've been trying to get you all through, but I couldn't get you this the first time.
All right, then.
Please, I want to just comment on this issue of Saraki by the federal government. I quite agree there are elements of politics in it. That is a fact. But the truth is, people should understand and believe that fighting corruption has just happened. And honestly, fighting corruption is genuine in this government. That is if you could have problems. But what happened in the previous government? Was there no corruption? There was corruption happening, but who was fighting it? And there's nothing to show about fighting corruption in the previous government. This money that the other guy was saying, sorry to say him, the other guy, the Deputy Director, Public Affairs, was saying it is just recovery. Is recovery not fighting corruption? Were people not stealing before? Who recovered the money? But this time around, money was recovered, and everybody is seeing it, and truly there is corruption. Everybody knows about it. We couldn't just suddenly forget about the issue of the Zaini, the issue of Amgate, the issue of Bala Mohammed, the SCP, so many of them. That is pure corruption.
All right.
There was investigation, money was found. Look at the money, looted funds that were found in the former manager of NNPC. Yakubu. There are a lot of issues like that. So that is fighting corruption for sure. So somebody should not just post it down because it has a problem with the government or whatever to start saying government is not fighting corruption. Government is definitely fighting corruption. And everybody is seeing it. And commendation has been coming from abroad and other states, other countries. There was commendation for this government.
Indeed.
Just recently, the president was given honor for his fighting corruption. I mean, the world is seeing. If the world is not satisfied with what the president is doing, the world would have commended him. So thank you very much for your effort, and I'm happy. This program is wonderful. We enjoy it, and we'll continue to enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you very much, Hamzat. Now, the point that he brings out that I'd like you to air, because, look, Jide said that this whole matter was brought, he went through that exercise in 2003, no complaint, subsequent year. Why is it that now, and then Jide says, because he was just guessing, it's not a hard and fast fact, that because of dissatisfaction politically, this is now being brought out. Now, what Mr. Hamzat is countering with there, to my mind, is that, look, this, and I think it's hidden in the sentence, this administration is actually serious about fighting corruption.
How?
He didn't say much more, but we've discussed it that, look, what if that was okay in 2003, 2005, 2007, and all the other years was not okay, because you yourself just explained that sometimes the way these people go about their job, they might not find a need to be thorough. Look, and then some other people come along and say, no, bring it out into the sun. This carpet is going to be beaten in the sun. Everybody will see that the amount of dust that we can bring out of it, etc., etc., etc.
If we begin to ask this question, whether how much of corruption the government is fighting, then they will now say we are taking sides, that we are not. What is the opinion of Transparency International on Nigerian perceived corruption perception index?
Transparency International.
International. That as far as they are concerned,
don't forget that.
I'm coming. As far as they are concerned, we are not fighting corruption.
As far as they are concerned.
As far as they are concerned.
Yes.
As far as
so what do they know about it?
In fact, we have even slipped down the ladder. Ghana has told Nigeria, please go, don't come and teach us how to fight corruption. We are making improvements on the ladder. You are sliding down, and you come here to teach us we are fighting corruption. Don't bother about Mr. President being honored. Honor in Nigeria can be procured. All these agencies that say Man of the Year award, this award, as far as I'm concerned, they are procured awards.
Okay. Dayo in Ilorin, thank you for holding on. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Yori and co-discussant on the program.
Thank you for calling in.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to throw a light into this Saraki case.
It's not our Saraki case.
Yeah. I mean, the Saraki case.
It's the Saraki case.
Yeah. Okay. You see, I mean, the federal government, they made a mistake at the onset of trying to, the way and manner in which they took him to court. But having said that, the whole thing might end up not being, I mean, he might end up not being prosecuted, but the most important thing out of this is that he is damaged politically. I mean, Saraki, either he wins the case or he doesn't win the case, he is damaged politically. And at the end of the day, too, because if he's innocent, we cannot be talking of witch hunting or no witch hunting. Politics is part of it, but is he guilty or is he not guilty? Is he corrupt or is he not corrupt? We don't need this kind of people in Nigeria to rule us because he has presidential ambition, and that is damaged. That's all I have to say.
Well, okay, thank you very much. Everything apart from that statement about not needing anybody, no judgment has been pronounced yet. So we have to be very, very aware of that fact.
We have in Nigeria. We prosecute and
in our bedrooms
on the pages of newspaper. And I've said also we are fighting corruption. I've said it on so many programs. They are there in the public domain. That we are fighting corruption on the pages of newspaper. The Attorney General of the Federal Republic has not come to tell us that this is the money we recovered. The Auditor General, the Accountant General, we don't have a public record of money recovered thus far.
Apart from newspapers?
Apart from what we see on the pages of newspapers. No. There are no official documents.
And you can't go to court with those things.
You can say that to people with low level of thinking, with low minds, with people of that category. You can't tell that to the intellectual community. We are not. You can't say we are fighting this administration for corruption.
Let me see if I can squeeze in Alaji Adeomi in Port Novo. Good morning.
Good morning,
Yori.
Mr. Yori.
Good morning, sir. Please go ahead quickly. Mr. Adeomi.
Good morning, please.
Good morning, sir. Go ahead quickly.
I just want to contribute to your discussion.
Sure, go.
You see, when you look at Nigeria, I will look at Nigeria as per corruption. I'm talking, please. If you see what's happening in Nigeria, travel from Ghana to Nigeria, you will not see anybody disturbing you on the road. But when you enter Nigeria from the border, you see thousands of policemen and the custom on the road demanding money publicly. They hunt for money with sticks as if they are hunting. No country will see this and be happy. If Transparency International will not agree with Nigeria, we are fighting for us, if this thing still happen, I don't know why the federal government does not know. Go and see what's happening along Benin, Songo Road. See, they collect bribes openly.
All right.
Police, custom, military, everybody, they collect bribes here.
Okay. All right, then. Thank you very much, Alhaji Adeomi from Port Novo. Really appreciate your call. I would have let you continue a bit more, but we've completely run out of time. And for me, it's been an interesting conversation. We've got perspectives on the law. And also, we're seeing how much this, you know, how it affects people. So much so that...
Has this case not affected governance in Nigeria?
Indeed. So I guess I'm going to have to leave it there. And in the fullness of time, when the Supreme Court pronounces, we'll know where we are. We've been told that indefinitely doesn't mean what it means in English. So there you go.
It is signed die.
In law, signed die. Yes, there you go. So indefinitely is not indefinitely. Thank you very much, Dr. Jide Johnson. Thank you very much for this. Okay, so that's our program today. Please join us on Monday for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folari. Please have a great weekend.